joined by the Minister of Health, the Honorable Kim Wilson, who will lead our weekly update on the continuing public health emergency that is the coronavirus. Minister of Health, please.
Thank you, Peter. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, there were 1,117 test results received by the Ministry of Health, and one was positive for COVID-19. The new positive case is an imported case and is a resident having arrived on the BA flight 2233 on the 16th of September. This case is also a close contact of a known case and has been in quarantine since their arrival. Bermuda now has 181 total confirmed positive cases, and their status is as follows. 167 have recovered, and there are 5 active cases who are all under public health monitoring. None are hospitalized or in critical care, and the total deceased remains at 9. The average age of all of our confirmed positive cases is 56, and the age range of all of our positive cases is from 9 to 101 years. Overall, 51% of the cases were Black, 42% white, and 7% unknown or other. The source of all local cases is as follows. 70 are imported, 90 are local transmission with a known contact, 21 are local transmission with an unknown contact, and none are under investigation. Bermuda's country status remains at sporadic cases, and our 7-day average for the real-time reproduction number is less than 1. Following the departure of Hurricane Teddy from the area, the COVID-19 hotline reopened today at 9 o'clock a.m. to ensure that the travel authorizations were processed in a timely manner to coordinate the rescheduling of testing from Monday. The PROT testing facility also reopened today at 10 o'clock a.m. to accommodate persons who missed their COVID-19 test on Monday due to the hurricane. And I wish to commend the Ministry of Health staff as well as the lab for effectively doubling up on testing efforts today to ensure that there were no gaps in testing and minimal inconvenience to the travelers. Once again, the Ministry of Health is reminding residents that all restaurant patrons must wear a mask at all times when not seated at their table. This includes entering the premises and exiting, as well as using the restroom. The wearing of masks in these instances is compulsory, and dining establishments are required to enforce these rules. For more information about mask wearing or anything related to COVID-19, please go to coronavirus.gov.bm. For our mental and physical health, it is important to be active and social, but we must be clear of the risk involved. I would like to remind people about the activity guide posted on the government website, which details some activities on the high and low risk scale. For example, low risk activities include walking or biking outdoors, which can be with friends if you stay 6 feet apart. Another low risk activity is dining outdoors, provided that tables are 6 feet apart and diners avoid high touch items such as menus. Low to medium risk activities include picnicking outside with friends, so long as you keep 6 feet from others. Keep groups small, wear masks, and don't share food or utensils. Going to the beach and swimming in a pool also fall within this category, so long as you physically distance from others, avoid locker rooms, and spend most of your time in motion. Medium risk activities include children's play dates outside, provided that you keep your group small and don't share food, and make sure that you wear masks. And conversely, activities that are medium to high risk include socializing outside with a large group. The more people, the more likely you will be exposed. You should physically distance and also to wear your mask. Going to the gym is also medium to high risk activity, but there are many things that you can and should do to minimize the risk. And these are all located on the government website and the guidance under gyms at coronavirus.gov.bm. High-risk activities include visiting elderly parents or friends who are high risk for COVID-19. Avoid physical contact with them and meet outside if possible. Do not visit them if you have any symptoms or have been exposed or might be sick. Very high-risk activities include attending a big party indoors or being in a large gathering or dense crowds. Avoid these at all costs unless strictly necessary. It is more important than ever that we each play our part in keeping our community safe. It is not by luck that we have avoided community spread thus far. It is through our hard work and diligent efforts to follow government's guidelines and directions. And finally, a request to our parents. Please remind your children to respect and adhere to physical distancing guidelines when it comes to public transportation, whether riding on public transport or waiting for public transport. I end by reminding us all to avoid the 3 C's: closed spaces, crowded spaces, and close contact settings. Be safe, Bermuda, and thank you.
Thank you, Minister of Health, and congratulations again to your team for their fine work. One note that I'd like to report to the public that from our cabinet meeting today, the cabinet has agreed to the recommendation from the Cabinet Committee on the Reopening of the Economy that we will be extending the hours for liquor license establishments to remain open. Currently, in the public health emergency regulations, those must close at midnight, and as of this weekend, the time will be pushed back to 2 a.m. It is important to note that enforcement is still critical, and any establishment not following the rules may be subject to a closure order. It has been a long journey to open schools for the 2020-21 school year. I am pleased that given the recent closures of schools due to Hurricanes Paulette and Teddy, that all of our public schools have opened today, and students can now begin settling in and progressing with their studies. During the first week back, Recovery Week, students are engaged in learning new routines and expectations, especially as relates to school safety and health. Schools are balancing academics with a focus on student well-being. I wish to thank all of our students for their patience, and a thank you to our parents for working with your respective school principals and administrators to implement the new safety and health procedures. This pandemic has changed the way we go about our daily lives, and our school educators have had to make big changes as a result. We are grateful to the officers in the Department of Education under the leadership of the Commissioner of Education and the officers in the Department of Health who have worked tirelessly during the past months to prepare for a safe return to school for our students. The success in keeping our public schools responsibly safe moving forward depends on the entire community, of which I ask all of you for your support. Bermuda is one of the few countries that has been able to reopen school in person for all students. It is a testament to our collective work that this has been achieved. Our essential and frontline officers were also on the ball last week, and I'm appreciative of them as well. Days after Hurricane Paulette, we held the advanced poll for seniors and travelers and those who are vulnerable. Prior to the poll, there was some disquiet being safe for voters. The parliamentary registrar is an office that normally finds themselves defending their performance in the media. I have no doubt that the public officers from the parliamentary registrar or returning officers made up from members of the public would be able to keep voters safe. Last week's advanced poll, the longest in Bermuda's history, ran for 4 days, and it's safe to say that anyone who wanted to vote and qualified for the advanced polls was able to vote. Again, I fully appreciate the parliamentary registrar and her team's efforts in difficult circumstances. That confidence means that there can be no reasonable fears about public safety and the general election. Protocols and measures that have been put in place are effective against spreading the virus and are also accommodating for voters. If you are following the global response to the pandemic, you may have noted that many countries that thought they had successfully managed COVID-19 are now experiencing increased cases. We've seen spikes in Spain and France and now the United Kingdom, where football grounds were due to be open this coming weekend, and the government today announced bans on groups larger than 15 people. We are seeing what is possibly a second wave. We have largely avoided community transmission in Bermuda. That result was reached by using a combination of science, medical advice, adapting our behavior, and relying on the common sense and dependable care and concern of Bermudians to take care of themselves and others. We cannot claim to have totally eradicated the coronavirus. And so I can confirm that we will continue to use proactive policies and protocols to avoid and or stem a second wave of coronavirus infections. Given that Bermuda's population travels quite a bit, and given that many jobs depend on Bermuda's economy, welcoming people to our shores for work and for leisure, our response must continue to be stringent. In preparation for the winter, and as more countries open, there may be more residents that travel, and more international travels will arrive with the increase of flights. As a result, we know that between now and the end of 2020, we will need to be more vigilant and more aware. As time goes on, many are likely to think that the risk from the virus is very low, given the success that the country has had and the number of negative test results that we receive. But that is precisely when we have to be more watchful and guard against complacency. As we have seen, cases are increasing in other places around the world. And we are seeing an increase in visitors who are coming to the island who are infected. And this is important. We have done a great job of managing the pandemic on our shores. However, we need to look at the examples from other places and know that that could be us if we are not careful. From all reports, it appears that Hurricane Teddy did not have the impact on lives and homes that we feared was possible when it was an intense Category 4 churning in the southern Atlantic late last week. I and many others have said that we Bermudians are no doubt blessed. While seemingly there has been significant damage to our foreshores and coasts, while we trust nature will restore herself, we cannot ignore the fact that given Paulette had come 7 days before, we faced the storm with readiness. The last time we faced this sort of challenge was in 2014 with back-to-back hurricanes Faye and Gonzalo. We endured, overcame, and continued to thrive. Over the last weeks, I witnessed time and again the essence of what makes us Bermudian. We cared for each other and supported each other. I saw neighbors helping neighbors as each household prepared for the storms. We checked, made sure our windows and properties were secure, and all of our necessities were in place. We called and checked in with our seniors, did the grocery runs for those who could not make it, and we demonstrated how we can come together as a community. Therefore, I was certainly dismayed to see the irresponsible behavior of a few parents who allowed their children to play near the ocean during the aftermath of a storm. We know the wave action created a significant amount of damage to our shoreline, and we must always be aware that before and during a storm, playing in the surf or near the surf can be dangerous for adults and especially for children. I will say it now for future storms and extreme wave action. When we advise people not to go in the water, please heed these warnings. They are for your safety and well-being and those around you. I am grateful that the children were not injured or worse, and we must use this as a learning opportunity to take the warning seriously. Which brings me to the individuals and organizations tasked with guiding us safely through hurricanes, our essential workers and members of the Emergency Measures Organization, the EMO. We hear about this organization usually before, during, and after hurricanes. Members of the EMO are tasked with working together, seamlessly providing and sharing information that will allow the Minister of National Security to make decisions that will make us safe and secure. I am truly humbled by the men and women who sacrifice their comfort and their families' needs and stand ready to be alert to answer emergencies in difficult conditions, working through the night with little sleep to ensure Bermuda stays safe and is continually updated with vital information. I have met many of our frontline heroes, and I can say that each one of them sees their job as service and their duty as a calling. So on behalf of the government and the people of Bermuda, I extend a sincere thank you and acknowledge the Minister of National Security, the Honorable Renee Ming, and our courageous and selfless Emergency Measures Organization staff, and also the agencies beneath them. We truly appreciate you and your hard work. With that, I'm happy to take questions from the media.
Good evening, Premier. Good evening, Minister of Health. Means I'm the only one here. Am I allowed 18 questions tonight? just a little joke. Premier, you've just mentioned about gradual increase of visitors. As we realize the gradual increase of visitors arrival by air, are there any indications that cruise ship business is going to be any better?
The view that the government has taken and for the BTA is that we are not focusing on cruise ships until April of next year, so we can focus on the air side. That's an entirely different phase of management. We are uncertain as to what may happen over the winter. We're uncertain what may happen with the United States, which is our main cruise port. So there was a decision that was made. The Bermuda Tourism Authority asked the advice of government, who is responsible for setting tourism policy, and we confirmed that we will not be accepting cruise ships until April 2021. That is our stance right now, subject to change and modification, but we felt that it's best to focus on getting air visitors sorted and trying not to worry about planning for both at the same time.
On the economic front, has the special advisory committee coming forward with any new initiatives that would have the desired short-term and long-term impact envisioned by the Finance Committee?
Well, I would say that the Minister of Finance has reported on some of the matters which came from the Economic Advisory Council, and I think he did that in a press conference, I either want to say last week or the week before. So the short answer to your question is yes. The Minister of Finance also laid out a number of short-term measures, specifically in regards to stimulating the economy, of moving certain capital projects forward, using some of the funds that was from the recent capital raise, move some capital projects forward to put additional money into persons' pockets. Another innovative thing is to use some of the money that is going to the supplementary unemployment benefit to support workers in those capital projects and others. So versus paying people to stay home, you're paying people to actually work and to increase the capital stock of the country. And the third thing in which the Minister of Finance spoke about was the using of the funds to start installing renewable energy on government buildings. There was an RFP in 2019 that went out, that came in. That is for government buildings. There's also the project at the National Sports Center, and there's a new project to be advanced on government installing solar at government schools as well.
Appreciate that. The finance minister, my last one on this topic, the finance minister pre-COVID let out a plan to service the debt. In light of all of our COVID-19 challenges, will we be able to meet the schedule of payment? If not, are there consequences?
The Minister of Finance is very able when it comes to managing the debt profile of the country. As you would know, that he just did a very large raise where Bermuda got the narrowest spread to treasuries in history. That means it was basically the cheapest funding borrowing that we've ever had. And that means that it was an incredibly well executed debt offering for the country. And you don't get that low price debt if people do not believe that you know what it is that you're doing. Independent ratings agencies, such as I think it was Standards & Poor's, right before we reviewed, affirmed our ratings, stated that we had a solid track record of managing the debt. The Minister of Finance has made sure that he and the Public Debt Advisory Group has made sure they've laid it out, and there are no debt payments that are actually due until 2022. But I have no doubt that we will be able to continue to grow the economy if after October 1st, the Progressive Labour Party government is returned to office. But even if not, we will work with whatever government is elected to make sure that the country grows. And I don't think that any international investor should have any question or doubt that the Bermuda government will be able to meet its obligations.
Thank you. I don't know if this, let me ask it. With the launch tonight of the platform, can I ask a question? Is that okay?
I will do my best to keep it on the government side.
Okay. With the launch tonight of the platform, would it not be considered that laying out your platform with only 10 days left for the election would be rather late?
You may say that, but I think the history of the Progressive Labour Party is we released our platforms around the same time, about 10 days before the election. But I will just make at this point, Trevor, we're the only political party in Bermuda that has released a comprehensive platform. And so I'll leave that at that.
Community Voices for Democrats, for Democracy, my bad, group launched a petition for community support for yourself, Premier, to debate the leaders of the three parties. Your thoughts on this process that's happening?
The position of the Progressive Labor Party has not changed, and my position has not changed either. That the fact is that I am happy to go into any debate between leaders of parties that have the capability of forming a government. And if not, those persons, there can be other debates with other minor parties or other independent candidates. And the position remains the same. That is the position of which I hold, and that position has not changed and will not change.
There's a lot of outcry, public outcry for a debate with all three. So you've eliminated one party by that statement. So wouldn't that not be considered to some?
Can I tell you what it is, Trevor?
Sure.
It's reality. There's only two parties that can form a government. And so if we're going to have a leaders debate over the persons who should lead countries, that's the type of debate in which you have. It's the same as what you see in other countries around the world, where they may have minor parties debate and the debates of persons who are capable of forming a government. That is the perspective and the position in which we've had. It is the reality.
So are we going to have any form of debate?
I've said what I will lay out. And so that's the perspective which we hold.
Okay, my last question. You just indicated that you're going to increase the liquor license establishments from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock. Why not revert back to 3 o'clock? It's only a 1 hour difference.
We need to take it a step at a time. Not everyone has all of their establishments. We take it a step at a time. Some people may not want to go that far. And so we've been very gradual as we have gone throughout this public health emergency. We have seen that gradualism helps, and we're just trying to make sure that we take it a step at a time. There may be an instance where we go back further after following the public health emergency and the extension of where we find ourselves. But from this perspective, we feel that it's something that is reasonable. We think that many liquor license establishments have actually done a good job of making sure they are abiding by the rules, and we want to make sure they continue to abide by the rules. And there is an argument that says that persons that are in licensed establishments that know that they have to follow the rules is probably a safer place for persons to be than at homes and house parties where there may not be that rigid enforcement or that level of inspection which will come from the police and or others. So it's a gradual move. It's something that I had actually pledged to do a couple of weeks ago, but we know that we've had a couple of weeks of hurricanes where the attention of the government has been diverted into other things. We managed to meet virtually, have a quick discussion yesterday, and now we've put that forward today to the cabinet. The cabinet has accepted that, and that will be the change to the public health emergency regulations to come into force this weekend.
Thank you much.
No problem. Thank you, Trevor.
Thank you, Premier. Thank you, Minister.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so I will say thank you very much. We will continue as long as there is a public health emergency in place. We will continue to provide these updates to the country on a weekly basis. And with that, I will say thank you, Bermuda, and good evening.